Yo, what's going on, guys? Tony here, coming at you with another For Honor video. As you can tell by the title, this is going to be a tier list video for Kensei. That is matchups only for Kensei in the duels aspect, obviously, because that's where you kind of determine the matchups and which characters are strong against each other. Main reason I wanted to do this video is I saw Mega's video a few days ago where he did just an overall dual tier matchup, and I kind of got that idea because I used to do a series where I would do just regular matchup guides for Kensei, kind of go in depth onto each matchup guide, but those kind of fell out of favor and most people kind of know how to deal with a lot of the characters, so I stopped making those. So I figured this one can kind of be like an all-encompass thing of like brief Kensei tips against these characters and then kind of why certain characters are strong, certain characters weak, etc. So I grouped these characters into 4 tiers: S, A, B, and C. S tier characters are going to be characters that are the strongest against Kensei. They have the easiest time dealing with him. And then subsequently, we're going to go down in the order to the C tier, which is going to be characters that I think Kensei has the best time against. And I just hope to give a couple tips on why they're strong or weak and how Kensei can deal with them. So starting off in the S tier, we got Lawbringer, who is probably Kensei's #1 counter or tied for #1. Main thing that makes him so strong against Kensei is that block shove. Any type of initiation that Kensei can try to do, even if it's like Helm Splitter or just random heavies thrown out there to try to get into the unblockable chain finisher, you can get block shoved. So it's kind of annoying to deal with, and even really good Lawbringers will know this, so they'll just play defensively and kind of wait for you to make the first move until you get too offensive. Then they'll try to punish you with their shove mix-up, so it's pretty difficult to deal with as Kensei. Main thing you want to do is see if they actually throw out any attacks. If they go for maybe a shove or if they go for light attacks or something, you need to try to be able to parry them or dodge and get a swift strike and maybe get into some sort of mix-up from there. But other than that, a really good defensive Lawbringer is going to be almost impossible for a Kensei to beat. Next one on the list is going to be Conqueror. Conqueror, like Lawbringer, basically stops all the times Kensei has at opening up a character and going into any chain moves. Main thing with this is Conqueror has a superior block on his shield, so where normally Kensei can do like a dash, a Helm Splitter, and if it gets blocked, he can continue to go the unblockable mix-up. Doesn't work for Conqueror. If you dash and do a Helm Splitter, you just kind of block, and he just kind of looks at you and is like, what now? Because you can't go into any other chains after that's been blocked from Conqueror. So like Lawbringer, if he's super defensive, you're going to have a pretty difficult time going up against him, and the occasional shield bash can kind of be difficult for you to tell if he's going to actually shield bash you or just dodge and then GB you. So he has pretty good mix-up tools for that. Since Conqueror doesn't have a really good kit, he's kind of forced into being that defensive character, so for the most part, you're going to have a pretty difficult time with Conqueror, and you're probably just going to have to try to find ways to sneak some light attacks in there, here and there, but if they're good at parrying too, it's going to be pretty difficult for you. Next character is going to be Centurion. Centurion's mainly on here because of his parry punish and due to the fact that Kensei has pretty slow attacks. Main thing, if you get parried from a light attack, you're going to get half of your health gone right there from the full charge heavy and the jab knockdown. So that's really strong for Centurion. It kind of makes you feel a little bit scared trying to attack against the Centurion. But the main thing I like to do is if I have the opportunity to go into some sort of mix-up, even where I like whiff the first attack or something, or if I'm in an unblockable mix-up, I'll just cancel it and try to see if I can bait out a heavy from them. A lot of the times, people won't hold the heavy enough with Centurion, and they'll just let like the normal heavy fly through because they're trying to parry, and you can parry that out pretty easily because you actually have to hold the heavy a little bit longer to actually feign it for the Centurion. So that's a good way to actually open them up. And then the last character on this list is going to be Warden. Warden can be argued for different reasons. I honestly think he might be one of the strongest against Kensei because of his crushing counter, and Kensei's main attacks come from the top, as we know. Light attacks and top heavies are the quickest attacks he has, as well as his Helm Splitter is the best initiation tool we have at the moment. Crushing counter basically makes that gone, like no chance really. If you have a good Warden, they'll know when you're attacking and they'll crushing counter you to death. Or even if you feint, you might be able to bait out a top light parry even, but then again, it's pretty rare that it actually happens, and if you don't get the timing correct, you'll probably just eat a top light to the face. So this is pretty bad and basically leaves you to having to attack from the side, which Kensei's side attacks are extremely slow, and if you get a light parry from the side, Warden's going to get a top heavy, and it's pretty bad as well. Couple this with the fact that he has his shoulder bash, which he can cancel directly. So if you're trying to dodge a shoulder bash expecting for him to do the double light bash, he can cancel it normally and react to like a swift strike and just parry that out and get a top heavy for free on that. So it's pretty difficult. You kind of have to find your spots, hopefully get some parries, and then light attack counters. There's really not much Kensei can do against these characters. A tier is going to be starting off with, I think, character who's probably A or S against everybody, which is Shaman. She basically just has too many tools for Kensei. She's got the soft feint, she's got the pounce, she's got the bleeds, she's got the bites. She just has a lot of tools in there that make her really strong against Kensei and give her more mix-up opportunities than the man himself. So main thing against Shamans is try to, keep your distance, and if she tries to dash in for like a headbutt, try to time like a light attack to smack her in the face while she's jumping in. Or if you're able to parry the bleed, I guess, soft feints, a lot of the times after the zone, people won't like continue the extra 2 hits of the zone, they'll soft feint. So you could be looking another direction just to try to go for a parry, but really good Shamans are good at masking their attacks, and it's going to be pretty difficult for you. Next character on here is going to be Shigoki. Shigoki is just pretty difficult for Kensei because of his hyper armor. Many times I've thrown out light attacks against the man. They hit, and then I get GB'd, thrown to a wall, and I get Demon's Embraced, and it's no bueno. But against Shigoki, you're probably going to want to just kind of wait out and be patient, because that's the main counter to Shigoki is if someone else is defensive, because then they're waiting for you to make the first move, and Shigoki's attacks are not quick, as we know. So I usually like to wait for the hyper armor to come up, go for a GB to cancel that out, and then eventually try to do my chains from there. You don't want to just throw out random attacks during the hyper armor, because you're going to get Demon's Embraced to death for sure. Raider is going to be the next character on this list because he has really strong parry punishes. If he's able to get like a top heavy off of a parry punish, really, really good for him. And the main thing I think probably that makes Raider a decent matchup against Kensei is that he can tech out of GBs on dash. So if you're going for maybe like a dash cancel GB on the unblockable, or just a normal cancel into GB, or any type of cancel for that matter, if you even catch him in the dash, he can still tech out of it most of the time, so it's pretty difficult to deal with you there, and it gives you limited options for your actual mix-ups. So that's why Raider's pretty strong. Main thing is try to find any patterns you can see with them. If they like to do stunning tap, then normal side heavy or something, try to look for things in that ways and then try to counter it. Then the next character on this is going to be Warlord. Warlord's another character who just thrives off of being defensive. A good Warlord will know how to go into like full guard and then be able to counter your attacks, get free damage off of there, use their headbutt wisely, fake attacks and go into the GB and then push you across the entire map into a wall and then get damage off on you. He's a really good counterattacker, and he basically can make a lot of Kensei's moves useless. I think best thing against Warlord is to keep your distance though, as his attacks don't have much range. So if you're able to do that, you might have a decent time. Final character though in rank A, I guess, is Peacekeeper. Peacekeeper is one of the only assassins who's really good against Kensei, I think, just because of her quick light attacks and the fact that she has her bleeds and deflects, as well as her good dodge attacks. So if you're able to keep your distance against PK, which you want to do for most assassins is Kensei, she can obviously just dodge out your attacks and go for like a dodging side heavy, or she can deflect them if they're a good PK and then just get free damage on you, so it makes it pretty difficult to deal with. A lot of the times I just like to make sure that the PK doesn't know where my attacks are coming from and try to play with the reflex guard a little bit to get some damage off. Now we're going to move on to tier B, which is going to start with Valkyrie. Valkyrie's pretty good against Kensei in some aspects. That being, if she has that one counter move where basically if you throw an attack out right before it hits, if she hits her light attack button, her shield blocks it and then she gets a free light attack on you. That's a pretty good move against Kensei. Also, her shoulder pin mix-up tool is really good against Kensei. If you're caught on dodge and she GBs you, you're going to have a bad time. Simple as that. Against Valkyrie, I like to wait for maybe like an attack chain, like the second light attack before they go for the sweep. That's going to be your best way to try to open her up and then maybe get a parry off and then go doing the unblockable mix-up. Aramusha will be next on this list. Aramusha's kind of a weird character. I think he's both decent and not decent against Kensei. If someone's able to get really good soft feints off and keep up the pressure on you, it's going to be pretty difficult for you to react. I mean, if you figure out the pattern, you should be fine. But for Kensei, you're going to be able to probably bait out some blade blockades pretty decently with unblockable mix-ups or uninterruptible heavy feints such as that, and able to get some free GBs, and as well as the GB that can happen still on light attack. That's kind of annoying with Aramusha. You should be able to have an okay time against him, since that's why he's probably in the B tier. Berserker is going to be the next character on here, mainly because Berserker can destroy you if you're a good Berserker who knows how to play with the hyper armor. It's really insane, especially if they get like that hyper armor top heavy, which does like half of your health. Pretty ridiculous to deal with. And deflects are another thing to worry about with the Berserker. I feel like Berserker can deflect really easily Kensei's attacks, and it's happened many times to me, and it's no fun. So watch out for that. For the main stuff, I like to, bait out deflects with like feints. So heavy feint into like top light, things of that nature to try to poke down your opponent. Then the final character in B is going to be Gladiator. Gladiator's mostly in here because he can have an okay time because he has quick lights as well as an extremely safe zone, but he can also be punished pretty hard if he's going for, a dodging side light or a jumping top light. Those can get punished with GBs, and he also doesn't have like super great, I guess, heavies, but he does have a lot of stamina and feinting abilities, so that makes him kind of good to deal with, and it's kind of like a mix matchup between Kensei and Gladiator. Can go both ways. So moving on now into tier C, these are the characters that I think that Kensei actually has a pretty good time against. You guys might not agree, but this is just my experience as playing the character for a while. First one is going to be Nobushi, actually. Some of you guys might not agree, especially on console. Nobushi can be pretty quick, but Nobushi is pretty easy to deal with. I feel like her attacks are really telegraphed. The light attacks aren't too hard to block or parry, at least for me that is. And especially if they go into like, heavy mix-ups into like the kick. The kick is really easy to dodge, and a lot of the times people will just throw light attacks after the kick, and you can parry those super, super easy. You want to always keep your guard, I guess, postured to the left just in case of that zone, because that's a really good tool for Nobushi. But for the most part, I feel like her attacks don't hit me too much, and if I block them, I can kind of get the timing down right and then able to go for a parry from that. Shinobi's going to be the next one on the list, who might be Kensei's best matchup, in my opinion. I think that Kensei, if he just keeps up pressure, can do pretty well against Shinobi. The ranged attacks from Shinobi, like the guard break and the heavies, they don't work against anyone now, so those are pretty much obsolete. You can hit Shinobi with a lot of attacks, especially if they're trying to get double dodge happy with heavies and light attacks. You can dodge out from a lot of their attacks. Just things in general, if you keep your spacing on a Shinobi, it's pretty easy, because then you might force them to do their ranged attacks, and then, like I said, those are really bad. Only thing that could really be positive for a Shinobi, I guess, would be light spam and the occasional deflect, but a lot of Shinobis I play against don't deflect, so you probably won't run into that too often. Highlander is going to be the next character on here. He needs to get his class buffed, buff his class, pun intended. He's pretty easy to deal with just because he's slow, and you can bait him out pretty well. Good Highlanders will like to try to counter anything that they can with the crushing counter light attacks, so I go into unblockable mix-ups or heavy feints, cancel those, parry the light attacks because they're pretty slow, and then get some good damage off there. He just doesn't have enough tools to deal with. I think the offensive mode attacks are really easy to dodge as well, especially like the grab and kick. Those aren't that hard to dodge anymore. So Highlander just has a pretty difficult time to deal with really anybody, and you need to be a pretty good player at countering and such to actually win games with Highlander. Final character on here is going to be Orochi. Orochi just doesn't have a lot to him. You pretty much know where his attacks are going to come from. It's either going to be top lights or it's going to be zones. Occasional storm rush things. I think that's the one where you like dash backwards and get into that weird stance, some weeb looking stance, and then go for that attack. Those, you can just wait that out. You honestly don't have to do anything if you see a person do that. You can wait, or you can attack them before they actually get the chance to throw it out, and it cancels it. So there's just not a lot going on with Orochi, and I think top lights are pretty easy to parry since you'll probably be expecting them. Side lights and side heavies are super, super slow for the dude. Not that great. Light deflects are okay, I guess, for Orochi, but you don't see him too often, especially if you feint, you might be able to catch him during a dash and get a light attack off. Heavy deflects are much slower, so if you dodge too early, they can hit you, but I think the timing for it's really easy to dodge. So Orochi just doesn't have a lot of tools, I guess, for going against most people. Notice that two of these characters in C that Kensei's good against are also really bad characters, so I don't know, maybe that says something, but this is my tier list for matchups against Kensei. If you guys have any questions about these matchups, or you feel something's different, let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to answer your guys' questions. The support on the channel for the past week or so has been insane, so I thank you guys for that. Really do appreciate it. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. As always, my name is Tony. I will talk to you in the next one. Peace.
Around my city, my rules, my money, my town. Look, pimpin', I ain't playing. In a minute, you're gonna be laying on the ground. I ain't messing around. My city, my rules, my money, my town.